This is video 3 of the Dice Game tutorial. In this video, we're going to talk about keeping score. All right, and to keep score, we got to do a couple of things. Now, there's an odd thing that happens in Python. At least it'll seem odd if you're not used to it. And that is when we create a function, when we create a variable inside of a function, like we created die1 and die2, those variables are not available outside the function. So if I said take turn and I said print die1, it's not going to work because die1 was created inside this function. And I won't get to this line of code until this function is done running. That's the way functions work. It finishes running this function before it moves on to this line. Well, when a variable is created inside of a function, it dies when the function ends. So the die1 variable goes away at the end of this. As a matter of fact, if we run this module, you can see, do you want to roll again? No. Enter. Oops. Okay, and here we go, error, die1 is not defined. And that's because die1 was created inside a function and was what we call it's local to that function is what we say, meaning we can't use it outside the function. By the same token, if I create a variable outside of a function, it cannot be used inside the function unless I tell it to. And there's a special keyword that lets me tell it I want to use this variable inside this function. And so when I could create a variable inside this function called player1 score, and just temporarily I'm going to call it 22, okay? And I'm going to out here say print player1 score, and I am going to say in here, the last thing it's going to do before it exits this function is print the player1 score. So I'm going to run this. My score is 9. Do I want to roll again? No, I don't. And you will notice that okay. So when I said, do you want to roll again? And I said no, it printed player1 score. Oh, you know what? I put this in the wrong spot. That's why that didn't work. Hello. After take turn, I'm going to say okay, I rolled a 5 and a 6. Your score this turn so far is 11. Do you want to roll again? No, I don't. So you will see that two things happened. First of all, it printed the 22 when I asked for player1 score here, but it only printed a 0 when I asked for player1 score here. That is because this player1 score is this, and this player1 score is this, because I didn't tell it I wanted to be using what we call the global player1 score. So now if I say in here, I'm going to say global player1 score. Now I'm telling it when I talk about player1 score in here, I am talking about the version up here. So any changes I make to this inside the function, they're still going to count. All right, so now if I print player1 score and player1 score, I want to roll again, no I don't, they're both 0 because that's what the global one is and I didn't do anything to change it in here. All right, so we could call anything declared outside of a variable or outside of a function in Python is a global variable. If we want to use a global variable inside of a function, we have to say global. And that tells it we are talking about this variable. So this is why I put that here. Eventually, we are also going to need to change, even though we haven't gotten to player 2 yet, and global turn. All right, so all three of these variables we need to change inside this function. So we need to call them globals, or this function's not going to work. All right. So now we can modify the player score. So what we need to do is we need to decide what to do about the player's score as the game continues. And what we're going to do is at the end of their roll, whether it's because they get a 1 or because they decide they don't want to roll anymore, we are going to calculate their turn score, and we're going to set their player score equal to that. So I'm going to say if turn score equals -1, which means that they roll a pair of 1s, player 1 score equals 0. So we're going to set their score back to 0. And then we're going to say elif, actually we can for right now just say else, means if they got a 0 or more, equals player 1 score equals player 1 score plus turn score. All right, so here's what happens. They roll the dice a whole bunch of times. They roll a pair of, they roll a 1. It will say that your score is over, hit enter to continue. It will say, yeah, turn score is not -1, so I need to add their turn score to their player score. Well, they got a 0, so basically I'm adding 0. If they rolled a bunch of die and they got a bunch of points and they didn't lose them because they didn't roll any 1s, but they decide not to roll again, then it takes that turn score and it adds it to their player score. And so now we're keeping track of how many points they have. We only do this after their turn is over, because if we did it during their turn and they decided and they lost all the points for that turn, we wouldn't know how many to subtract. Hopefully that makes sense. So now we're keeping track of their score. And now we actually are starting to get to the point where pretty soon we're going to want to write some code that actually ends their turn and goes to the other player's turn, because this is as a one-person game, this isn't very exciting. And so we're going to write that in a minute, but just be aware that we now have a way of keeping track of their score, keeping track of when they lose all their score, keeping track of adding to their score, and everything else. So let's try to figure out what the best thing to do next is. All right, so we're going to now write another function. And this function is going to handle showing the score and showing whose turn it is. Okay, so we're going to call this we'll call it game turns. All right, and what game turns is going to do is it is going to do a few things. First of all, it is going to say print the current score is, print player 1 colon, comma, player one score. And let's copy that. Oops. Okay, so we're going to go to player two and player two score. And then we're going to say let's see. I'm going to do a while loop. I'm going to say while player one score is less than 100 and player two score is less than 100, take turn. And let's see, we're going to say print. And right now we don't have any code that changes turns, so this won't really do much yet, but we're going to do something with it in a minute. We're going to say so I'm going to put this inside the while loop. I'm going to say print player, comma, turn, comma, it is your turn. Print these random freezes, so hopefully that didn't affect the recording. So hit enter to continue. Okay, so here's what's going to, oops, that should be an input, not a print. So here's what's going to happen. If I run it right now, nothing's going to happen because I don't have any code outside of functions, but other than variables. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to call game turns. This is actually the first line of code that's going to run in this program. Even though all this stuff is above it, it's going to run game turns. It's going to come here. It's going to say the current score is, and it should print 0 to 0 because nobody scored. It's going to check to see if anyone has a winning score yet. If they don't, it's going to print player, and for right now it's just going to say 1 because we haven't made a way to change turns. It is your turn. Hit enter to continue, and then it's going to call take turn, and take turn is up here. So now it is going to come up here and it's going to start this process. So let's see if this works. Whoops, I forgot a colon. And keep in mind, I'm making up this program as I go along. I kind of played with it a little, but I haven't written the whole program yet, so you're seeing me think as I go. So we're going to go to run module. All right, so current score is 0, 0. Player 1, it's your turn. Hit enter to continue. I'll hit enter. Oh, well, that didn't work so well, did it? So what happened? I take turn, hit enter to continue. I hit enter to continue. It should have take turn. Well, that's weird. So let me see if that's just a random. Yeah, that was just some random glitch in my shell here. Your score so far this turn is 12. Do you want to roll again? Yes, I do. Up, I rolled a pair of 1s. My turn is over. Hit enter to continue. Player 1, it's your turn. Hit enter to continue. You rolled a 4 and a 6. Do you want to roll again? No, I don't. player one, it's your turn. Hit enter to continue. Okay. So here's the problem. This game's not going to end until I have 100 points. I just realized I'm going to kill it here and show you what I did wrong, because I did something wrong here. So I put all of this outside this while loop, and I want it to actually print the scores in between turns so everybody knows whose turn it is and what the score is, because without that information, it's not as useful. So let's try this. Okay, player one, it's your turn. Hit enter to continue. Do you want to roll again? No, I don't. Okay, current score is player 1, 0 to 0. Okay, so something went wrong there. It did not. It did not update our score. So let's take a look and see what went wrong here. Player one score is player. So let's think about what happened. I rolled a 2 and a 2. My score was 4. I got to this point. Do you want to roll again? I said no. If turn score equals -1, at player one score equals 0. Else player one score equals player one score plus turn score. So that should have worked. Let's see. And this is what I just told you guys about last video. So the player one score didn't print out correctly because I'm gonna kill this game here. Okay, so because I didn't make these global, this was its own new variable. It did not refer to this variable. So now let's run it again and see if that fixes my problem. My score is 6. I want to roll again. Yes, I do. Your score is 14. You want to roll again? Yes, I do. Score is 21. No, I don't want to roll again. Okay. Yeah, so still not keeping track of my turn score. So what's happening here? So let's test something out here. Whenever you run into a problem like this, it's good to troubleshoot what went wrong. And I'm going to hit print player one score. So now player one's your turn. Enter. Your score this turn so far is 11. Do you want to roll again? No, I don't. Okay, so player one score is not updating correctly. And let's figure out why it's not updating correctly. So turn score equals 0 if die 1, turn score is -1, turn score equals turn score plus die 1 plus die 2. That should be right. Your turn score of this turn is 11. So interesting, because it gets turn score correct, and well, no, that's right. So if turn score equals -1, do that. If it's not -1, player one score equals player one score plus turn score. So again, so I'm going to do, so like I said, a lot of times when you want to, troubleshoot, a lot of times it's just a matter of putting some print statements in. And don't forget to take these out later because you're just troubleshooting with these. Player 1 is my return, hit enter to continue. I rolled a 2 and a 3, so let's see where we are. We're right here. It says your score so far is a 5. Do you want to roll again? So this is where we are right now. And I'm going to say, yes, I want to roll again. And it printed out 5, so my turn score is correct. So I'm going to, your score so far is 9. Do you want to roll again? No, I'm not. And it says I print turn score 9, but then when I come down here, player 1 score is 0. So I need to figure out why player 1 score is not taking my turn score. Turn score. I gotta make sure I spelled it right. Turn score. All right, so player 1 score. So I gotta figure out why that's happening. I'm gonna try. So now turn score should be the same here as it is here. So when we run this, enter continue. Do I want to roll again? No. Okay, so, there is my problem. Double equal signs. See, I make stupid mistakes too. All right, so it was not assignment, it was just testing. I'm surprised that didn't even give me an error, but it didn't. So I can get rid of all these extra places where I printed turn score. Now it should run fine. Okay, and you'll notice printing all those things didn't solve my problem, but it showed me where my problem was. So a lot of times that's what you need to do. Yes, I want to roll again. My score is 14. No, I don't want to roll again. All right, player 1, 14, player 2, 0. Player 1, it's your turn, hit enter to continue. I rolled a 7, I'm going to roll again. Oops, my turn's over. So it's still 14. Enter to continue. Yes, I'm going to roll again. Yes, I'm going to roll again. Enter. So I'm going to play this till I get 100 and just show that it works. Again, yes, no, so now I've got 13, enter, yes, no, okay, I got 64, and one thing I hate is when I get scripts turned into me that don't run, you need to test your script all the way through, and so I'm testing this to make sure that the line that checks to see if someone's over 100 works, and 11, yes, 23, no, I don't want to roll again, so now I got 77, enter, yes.